Hi, I'm Paula Skiles, and I'm the minister at Unity Church of San Marcos in San Marcos, Texas. And this now is the new year, 2021. And now that it's here, we're going to see, I believe, so many people finding themselves in that mystical and mythical dynamic we call change. And on a spiritual level, what we can find is that when change comes into our life, that usually that is Spirit calling you and I to express something of our true nature. On a physical level, that usually means that you and I will have to leave something familiar, some way of living or some way of being or even a physical location. Sometimes you and I initiate these changes consciously, and then sometimes these changes seem to be thrust upon us, and we are not happy or we are unwilling and feeling powerless. In either case, what you and I are called to do is to find a way through these changes and experience some type of blessing by seeing the good in them. And my message is titled, Find a Way, and that's what it's about. You know, there's an old saying, and I'm probably certain you've heard this, and it goes like this: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And don't rock the boat, right? Whatever happened to non-change? Having change be a part of a constancy, that's one of the things that we can be certain of, is change in our world. Kind of crazy, right? Anyway, so it seems to me that it helps to have a spiritual perspective in our lives in order to feel more reassured when so many types of things are happening in our personal life or even in our community life. And some of them are difficult and challenging. And we have to find a way to see the blessing or to see the good. Now, this is where I would like to do something that's not considered quite fashionable, and that is to take wisdom from the Bible. So I would like to open up this line of thought with you for just a few moments and see what we can receive from that message, because there is always a message that I find. Maybe you will too. So today I'm sharing from Genesis 12, 1 and 2. We're told, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you. And I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great so that you will be a blessing." Have you ever thought about how many of the Bible characters were called to leave the familiar, to let go of something in order for them to experience their destiny or receive their inheritance? They had to live some new way, or they had to come to a new place or a new way of being. Consider Noah and his family having to leave everything, virtually everything that they knew. And then, remember Moses, who was called to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt across the little obstacle known as the Red Sea. Or what about Joseph, when he was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and then later on imprisoned in Egypt? And then there's Naomi, having to leave everything she knew when her husband died and follow Ruth, who wanted to go back to her homeland, which happened to be a completely foreign place and for Naomi. And then there's Isaiah, a prophet, telling the people of Israel that they would need to go through the wilderness in order to find their freedom from slavery, leaving everything they knew. Ever think of Jesus' disciples having to make a choice, called to follow him, and then after his death and resurrection, what are they doing? But they're going out and preaching, and they've left their livelihoods and everything that they have and know, sometimes even all of their families, for many of them being cast out or imprisoned or tortured or killed. Who wouldn't want to do all these things? Mercy. There's a whole lot of leaving in all of these characters. And these heroes and heroines, they are just exactly that. Choosing to leave the familiar. Choosing to follow that voice that says, follow me, I have something for you to do. Something greater for you to be about. And then we can take that verse and we can go even further by taking a metaphysical viewpoint on it from ourselves and our own lives, and see each character and all of the aspects of it as states of consciousness and ways of being in our own lives. So the name Abram in Hebrew means father of exaltation, father of heights. To exalt means to essentially to raise to the highest of heights. The Hebrew word most often translated exalt or exalted is ram. To lift up, to be or become high. To exalt something is to raise to a higher level in rank, honor, power, character, quality, or to elevate. Now, it seems to me that Abram is the character that denotes a change in consciousness that puts God first. Because whenever you're exalting God, that is what you're doing. You're putting God first. You're lifting up your thinking and your feeling to where you and I acknowledge Spirit as the source of all of our good and putting God first. Now, I seem to remember this was one of Jesus' commandments. It's the very first commandment. Love God with all your heart and mind and soul. And that's what this means, to exalt. So one way you and I act to find a way to our blessings is recognizing that Abram represents when you and I find this quality within us called faith. And it comes forward like through all humankind. And there is a faith in the forces that are invisible to us, but they have a reality that is sometimes more real than the physical things we touch. And when our faith is concentrated on God, a connection with Spirit occurs. We have a conscious contact with Spirit. Now, some of you might wonder, why would a person leave everything they know to follow what is ostensibly some blessing far off in the future? I hear you. I feel like that, and even in my own life sometimes, when I started a more conscious approach to my spiritual journey, I've done a whole lot of leaving. Sometimes my leaving was leaving family or friends to go do what I needed to do with education or for a church, or to move to in a new home or whatever it was. And sometimes I felt like I was being left. And maybe you can relate to that. Sometimes my leaving was in consciousness, like old beliefs or old ways of expressing and being in this world, and how my attitudes or my actions no longer serving me. Occasionally, I felt like, the butterfly that loses all its caterpillarness, or maybe like a snake when she sheds her skin and her whole being is vulnerable while this new skin grows. There were times I acted, and sometimes I felt acted upon. Many times I felt like saying, whoa, when I was called from all the things that I knew into something completely unknown. Called from my comfort zones into a new and foreign land. Jesus taught to his disciples, calling them. They never thought of themselves as prophets or teachers or healers or disciples, but then there they were. And I know intellectually that change is necessary. It's kind of like the Dead Sea. The reason it stagnates is because there's no inflow and outflow. And that's what change is. It's about the inflowing energies of spirit. And when you and I find a way to release those things that are not healthy for us or are no longer working for us, then you and I can act as an intentional space. Now, these Bible characters are symbolic, and they are representative of those kinds of things within you and I. And at some point in our lives, and maybe many points in your life even, we'll hear a call, and you and I will be that Abram who will be called into a new land, and we will be shown that new land. And what I want you to hear is what that means is, as you and I place God into that exalted space where we lift up our thinking and our feelings and we experience a conscious contact with God, you and I experience that being shown that new land. What that means is you and I are able to wield greater degrees of substance, and substance is the very soil of what creates matter and makes things happen and what brings forth good into your life and my life. And it happens to be the energy that is behind or underneath all blessings. So when you and I are called by Spirit into a new land, it's always going to be in either an experience that is a profound opportunity or one that connects us to God because it is profoundly unsettling and difficult, where we have to find a way that seems far beyond our current level of understanding and capacity. Both of those ask of us to have a faith in which you and I act beyond what is our seeming human capacity. Some of us will be called into a dark night of the soul. Now, this depressive experience has its blessings, like greater insight and compassion as a general rule. Or we may be called on a type of journey where we have achievements and a sense of enlightenment, and we've gone far beyond all of the blessings that we thought we might receive. And we move out of the ordinary moments of our lives into extraordinary moments in life. The land I will show thee. And remember, you don't have to leave where you are physically in order to go to a new country. So how do we get there from here? Quite simply, you and I have to act. Now, ACT is an acronym. The A stands for accept what is. That is not easy, because we automatically want to see things different than they are, or we want to make things different than they are. But the first thing we have to do is accept just as the way things are. Now, I'm open to suggestions, but I have found that it's incredibly counterproductive to resist change. So perhaps you've discovered that too. And here's a hint. Accepting things as just what they are, as best as we can, helps us to look at our lives and come out on the other side with being able to see the good, because not only have we seen how things really were, but then we can see how change has made them better. So change, that happens to be the C in this acronym of ACT. Change what you can. There are so many things that are beyond my control and your control, and it's important. That's part of the accepting the way things are. But whenever you and I have the capacity to change something, whether it's taking care of myself or family members, or you're asked to change some aspect of your being. Maybe you've got bad habit. It's really been time and a past time that you changed. Whatever it is, change what you can. And the T is take control through your power of yes or no. Now that is something that even Jesus said, make your words yes or no. And what it means is, as things occur, we either accept them and say, yep, I want this in my life, or nope, not going to have it. Not going to have it. So can you and I get there from here? Well, it's about trusting that with God, you and I can find a way. Find a way to use this time of change that's coming in this year like a Sabbath, to take time apart. Many of us are having to do that anyway, but use some of that time and create a Sabbath within yourself. Become still. Go within seeking that guidance and that whispering of spirit that says, follow me, do this, act this way in the times of change. And may the year 2021 be a blessing to you. Thank you for being who you are and sharing with me your time and your life. From Unity Church of San Marcos, blessings of God. May this year provide you with a sense of greater knowing of who and what you are. And may you see the glory of Spirit move through your life profoundly.